Every person alive gets the same 24 hours. The billionaire, the broke, the thriving and the struggling. The person building an empire and the person watching one being built on a screen. The hours do not discriminate. They do not favor the talented or punish the unfortunate. They arrive in identical quantities every single morning, and they leave without asking whether you use them. So why does the gap between people's lives keep widening? Why do some people compress decades of progress into a few years, while others spend entire decades producing almost nothing that changes their position? It is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not the circumstances they were born into or the connections they inherited. It is their relationship with time. Specifically, what they understand about time that 99% of people never fully grasp. A truth so obvious that it sounds simple and so devastating in its implications that most people cannot afford to sit with it honestly. Time is the only resource that cannot be recovered, not supplemented, not earned back, not borrowed against. Once a minute is spent, it is gone permanently, and what it purchased with which to exit is the only thing that remains. The 1% know this, not intellectually, in their bones, and it changes everything about how they move through a day. The 99% treat time like a renewable resource, like money that can be earned back, like energy that returns after rest. They spend it loosely because somewhere in the background of their thinking lives, the quiet assumption that there is more where that came from, that the hour wasted today can be compensated for tomorrow, that the year drifted through can be made up for by the decade ahead. It cannot. And the cost of that assumption is not paid in a single dramatic moment. It is paid in the slow, accumulating, completely invisible currency of unlived potential. Of the business that never started because the hours that should have built it were spent on things that produced nothing. Of the body that never got strong because the mornings that should have trained it were surrendered to the screen. Of the relationship that never deepened because the evenings that should have invested in it were consumed by distraction. The 99% also confuse being busy with using time well. Busyness is one of the most effective disguises time wasting has ever worn. A person can be in motion for 16 hours and produce almost nothing of lasting value. Can respond to emails, attend meetings, scroll, consume, react, manage, and arrive at midnight genuinely exhausted, having moved nothing forward that actually matters. Busy is not productive. Busy is just occupied. And occupied time, like wasted time, does not come back. The 1% do not ask, am I busy? They ask, is what I am doing right now the highest value use of the time I am spending? That question, asked honestly, daily in the small decisions as well as the large ones, is the single greatest separator between the life most people live and the life the 1% build. The 1% do not see time the way you were taught to see it. They do not see it as a backdrop against which life happens. They see it as the most finite, most valuable, most aggressively defended asset they own. More valuable than money, more valuable than talent, more irreplaceable than any opportunity or relationship or advantage the world has ever offered them. Because money lost can be earned again. Reputation damage can be rebuilt. Skills missing can be developed. But an hour spent cannot be unspent. A day gone cannot be retrieved. A year surrendered to distraction, comfort, or unconscious drift is a year that belonged to the future and was spent in the present with nothing to show for the transaction. The 1% feel this. That is the difference. Most people understand it abstractly. Yes, time is precious, of course, everyone knows that. But the 1% feel the weight of each hour as it passes. They experience the spending of time the way a person experiences the spending of their last money. With attention, with intention, with the acute awareness that what is being exchanged now is being exchanged permanently. That feeling is not anxiety, it is clarity. The kind of clarity that makes the decision between a meaningful use of the next hour and a meaningless one, not a philosophical question, but an obvious one. The kind of clarity that makes saying no to the time waster not a sacrifice, but a reflex. The kind of clarities that once genuinely felt makes it almost physically impossible to drift through a day the way the 99% drift through years. Think about sand in an hourglass. Each grain is a minute. Each one falls at the same rate regardless of what you are doing while it falls. Whether you are building something, creating something, investing in something that will outlast the moment, or whether you are scrolling, drifting, consuming content that will leave no trace in your life by tomorrow morning. The sand falls at exactly the same speed. The hourglass does not pause for your distraction. It does not slow down for your indecision. It does not offer you a replay of the grains that have already fallen or a preview of how many remain. It simply moves, continuously, without mercy, without interest in whether you were paying attention. The 99% watch the hourglass occasionally. The 1% never take their eyes off it, not because they are obsessed with death or haunted by urgency, because they have made peace with the finite nature of the resource, and that peace has produced something the 99% rarely experience: complete, total, non-negotiable intentionality about where each grain goes. Every grain that falls into something meaningful is a grain that compounds. Every grain that falls into nothing is gone without return. The hourglass does not judge which is which, but the life it measures does. Let us get specific, because the 1% are not robots. They are not people who work every waking hour without rest or joy or human connection. They are people who have made specific, repeatable, non-negotiable decisions about time that the 99% have not made. They protect the first hours. Before the world arrives with its demands and its noise and its constant low-grade urgency, the 1% have already done the work that matters most. They have trained, they have thought, they have created, they have moved the most important needle before the least important ones have even started spinning. The first hours of the day are not spent reacting to the world. They are spent building the response to it. They say no faster and more often than anyone around them is comfortable with. The 1% understand that every yes to something is a no to something else. Every hour committed to a low-value activity is an hour denied to a high-value one, and they have decided clearly in advance, without needing to reevaluate every time, what deserves their time and what does not. That decision, made once with clarity, saves thousands of smaller decisions that the 99% make badly under pressure every day. They eliminate the gap between intention and action. The 99% spend enormous amounts of time thinking about what they should be doing, planning to do it, preparing to start doing it, building the perfect conditions for doing it. The 1% start immediately, imperfectly, with the understanding that the time spent not doing the thing is time that will never contribute to the thing being done. The gap between deciding and beginning is where most lives are lost. The 1% have made that gap as small as humanly possible, and they end each day with an account. They review what the hours produced, not harshly, honestly. They close the books on the day with the same discipline a serious business closes the books on a financial quarter. What was earned today? What was spent on nothing? What changes tomorrow? 5 minutes of honest accounting done nightly compounds into a life built with intention rather than assembled by accident. You have the same hours. You have always had the same hours. The gap between your life and the life of the 1% is not a gap in resources or talent or opportunity. It is a gap in how seriously you take the passing of each hour, in how deliberately you decide what each one is for before it is gone. That gap is closable, not by working more hours, by treating the ones you have as if they are what they actually are: finite, irreplaceable, the raw material from which everything you will ever build must be constructed. Stop spending your hours like someone who believes there are unlimited ones remaining. There are not. You know there are not. You have known for a long time. But knowing and feeling are different things. And until the weight of each passing hour becomes genuinely, physically real to you, the knowing will not change the spending. Let it become real. Right now, the hour you spent before this video, the one you are in, the one that follows. Each one of them is the most valuable thing you own, and each one is being spent whether you decide how or not. Decide. Protect the hours that build your life and stop surrendering them to things that consume it. Guard your time with the same ferocity you would guard anything else you could not replace. because you cannot replace it. Not 1 minute of it, not ever. Spend it like you know that, because now you do.